Becoming a cosmetologist, it sounds like such a great gig, right? It's creative. It's a real skill. But here's the crazy thing. For thousands of students, that dream career starts with a giant mountain of debt. Today, we're going deep into this surprising problem. We're going to investigate why a passion for beauty so often ends in a financial nightmare, and who exactly is pulling the strings behind the scenes.
So, at the very heart of this is a paradox, something that just doesn't add up. How can an industry that's all about creativity and passion end up trapping its newest members in debt before they even get started? Let's pull back the curtain and see how this system really works.
All right, so what is really going on here? How did this promising career path turn into such a brutal financial trap? The answer really starts to take shape when you look at two key numbers.
Okay, first up, the debt. The typical student walks out of cosmetology school with about $11,000 in loans. And you might think, hey, that's not as bad as a four-year university. But hold on, context is everything here. Because here's the other side of that coin. The average starting salary is just a little over $16,000. I mean, do the math. Your debt is nearly 70% of your entire first year's income. You're starting your dream career deep in a financial hole from day one. That debt-to-income ratio is the core of the problem. But where is all this debt actually coming from?
To figure this out, you got to do what they always say. Follow the money. And when you do, you find something pretty wild. It turns out, for a lot of these schools, the business model isn't really about education at all. It's about capturing federal student aid.
Get this. For many of these for-profit beauty schools, a staggering 85% or even more of their money comes directly from federal programs. We're talking Pell Grants, student loans, basically taxpayer money. This is called Title IV dependency, and it creates this really powerful and, frankly, pretty messed up incentive.
And what it creates is basically a self-reinforcing cycle, a perfect loop. First, trade groups representing the schools lobby states to require long, expensive training programs. Why? It's simple. Longer programs mean the school can collect more federal aid. Then, industry insiders who sit on the state regulatory boards approve and protect these bloated requirements. And the result? The schools profit from taxpayer money while the students get trapped with high debt and not a lot of earning potential to pay it back.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. When the federal government tried to introduce some basic accountability rules, the beauty school associations literally sued to stop them. And in their own legal filings, they admitted that their whole business model depends on these bad student outcomes. They said that if they actually had to prove their graduates could afford to pay back their loans, a huge number of their programs would just fail and shut down. They said it themselves.
So who are these insiders making the rules? To understand that, we need to talk about a core idea here. It's a classic case of what's known as regulatory capture.
Regulatory capture is basically when the watchdog becomes the industry's lapdog. You have an agency that's supposed to protect the public, but instead it ends up just protecting the profits of the very industry it's meant to be overseeing. And in cosmetology, this is all happening at the state level, on the licensing boards. Just take a look at Kentucky's state board. It is a perfect example. Out of 7 members, 6 are people from the industry. Salon owners, a school owner, you name it. And how many are citizens at large, with no financial stake in the game? Just 1. Think about that. The people setting the rules are the ones who directly profit from them.
And this is not just a Kentucky problem. Oh no, it can get even worse. In Iowa, a group of for-profit schools actually used the legal system to kill their competition. They sued to stop a public community college from opening a cheaper cosmetology program, and they won, successfully protecting their own little monopoly.
And the results of that monopoly in Iowa are, well, they're pretty stark. The state now has the highest mandatory training hours in the entire country. 2,100 hours. An official from the biggest school chain in the state sat on the board, even while his school was facing lawsuits for consumer fraud and for using its students as unpaid salon workers. It's the capture loop in action, clear as day.
Okay, so that's the problem. But the story doesn't end there. After decades of this system running unchecked, there are finally forces starting to push back. The federal government has started to step in, and some really innovative new models are starting to pop up.
So, the federal government seems to have realized that fixing these captured state boards from the outside is nearly impossible. So what are they doing instead? They're trying to go around them. They're creating new tools to give information and warnings directly to students before they sign up for these massive loans.
One of the most powerful new tools is this red flag system right on the FAFSA, the main application for federal student aid. It now warns students when a school's graduates earn less on average than someone with just a high school diploma. And in Kentucky, big chains like Empire and Paul Mitchell are now officially flagged. That's a direct warning to any student thinking about applying.
And then you've got the government's biggest hammer, the gainful employment rule. This is the exact regulation the schools sued to try and stop. It's actually really simple. It just says that if your program consistently produces graduates who can't afford to pay back their loans, then that program gets cut off from taxpayer-funded student aid. It is a direct attack on the entire debt trap business model.
So, while the government is trying to rein in the bad actors from one side, a completely new model is proving that there's a much better way to do all of this. A way that actually focuses on education, not on exploitation.
I want you to meet the Louisville Beauty Academy, or LBA. Their solution is revolutionary because it's so simple. They don't take any federal student aid. By completely decoupling from that whole Title IV system, they have broken out of the capture loop and created a completely debt-free path for their students.
And the two models are just worlds apart. In the old system, the real customer is the Department of Education, and revenue comes from maximizing federal aid with bloated programs. But at LBA, the customer is the student. The revenue is driven by getting them licensed and employed, with a curriculum that is laser-focused on what they actually need to pass their exam.
And the result is, well, it's just stunning. The average tuition at a Title IV school is over $17,000. At LBA, it's just over $5,000. By refusing federal money, they've eliminated what's called the compliance tax, all that massive administrative cost of dealing with the federal aid system. And they pass those savings directly on to the students.
And it's not just about the cost. Because LBA's curriculum isn't padded with extra hours to maximize aid, their students get licensed and start earning a paycheck about 6 months faster than their peers. That is a huge advantage, entering the workforce earlier with absolutely zero debt.
So the path to fixing this whole system is actually becoming pretty clear. It means breaking the grip of regulatory capture by demanding public majorities on these state boards. It means doing independent audits to see how many training hours are actually needed for safety. And it means enforcing labor laws to stop the exploitation of students as free workers.
Ultimately, what all this shows us is a fundamental choice. States can keep supporting a system built on regulatory capture and taxpayer-funded student debt. Or they can embrace these new models that are built on affordability, efficiency, and real student opportunity. The blueprints for a better way are right here. The only question left is, which path are we going to choose?